if Muslims did not have a state, then how did they rule themselves before the state came onto the scene? What type of political rule did they adopt, and what are they adopting now? Is it something that we can call the Sharia or not? And so this is where he's going to go a little bit more into detail with his difference between the Sharia as a paradigm versus the Sharia as a source. And it's extremely significant to register here that all of the political arrangement that we have throughout the world today in the Muslim lands, it is inherited from the post-colonial state. Even the places that weren't formally colonized, like Iran or Turkey, the type of relations between government and subject and law and morality are all inherited from the logic of somewhere else, right? The colonial state.
In Turkey's case, France, the French system, as he says, is explicitly adopted by Ataturk in the French Republic, in the Turkish Republic. Yeah.
And so the places even that have achieved independence, a type of independence from their former colonial masters, they have a very formal type of independence. However, they are not yet independent from the paradigm of law and the definition of law and the paradigm, the sort of even worldview that they had inherited from these colonial systems. And so what we see something mismatched. And this is what, Halak, I think he uses the term that the Muslim world sits uncomfortably within the political technology of the state. We have these sort of authoritarian regimes and oppressive regimes and failed states and things like that throughout the Muslim world. And it damages the reputation of the Sharia insofar as if any one of them claims to represent the Sharia or claims to apply the Sharia, because in reality, again, according to Halak, and I agree with him, there is no Sharia there. Even if there are certain individual laws that are sourced from the Sharia, the whole paradigm is not there. And so when things are applied sort of haphazardly and halfway, we get a mutant, right? We get some sort of new thing that is has the violence of the state and a certain sort of all of the baggage, all of those moral sort of issues that we just talked about that are part and parcel of the modern state, but now they have an Islamic veneer, which is even more sort of discouraging and disconcerting. So we're living with this political technology that was forced upon us, and we're essentially, as Halak says, we're living somebody else's history, right? The idea of a state, like the political technology and the relationships that we have now, does not come. It's not sourced. It was not originated within Muslim lands. Okay, it was started in Europe, right? From particular historical circumstances, from particular intellectual trends. We talked about the Enlightenment. Certain sort of developments in technology and the relations between production and consumer and these sorts of things with the Industrial Revolution. You have the American and French sort of constitutional traditions and the revolutions. All of these things are sourced within Europe. Okay, so the state is a very, very European thing. And we'll talk in the following chapter for next video about what makes a state a state. Halak identifies 5 things that are essential components of the state. And one of these is that it is a European thing. It's not even universal now, much less even like transhistorically looking into the past. But even now, it's something that was a product of the laboratory of Europe and European experience. And even the references to political sort of precedents outside of Europe, they're really just more about legitimizing. Like, so, we talk about Athens, we talk about the Magna Carta, these sorts of things that were part of, yes, Europe mainland, but pre-modern, okay? They're really more for legitimization purposes. And if you were actually to compare, we couldn't call those states. We might call them proto-states or things that had an implication or a bearing upon the modern state. But it's not the same thing at all. The state is European, and the state is truly modern and very, very recent. So if we're stuck with this arrangement, if we're stuck with this particular relationship between government and subject and law and morality, then we're not being allowed to truly draw upon our own history or our own historical experience in a paradigmatic way, in a fundamental way. We have to use the house that is given to us by the European colonists, and we're allowed to bring in some, pieces of art or furniture from our own sort of tradition. But the house itself has to be of this sort of European